It is the most wonderful time of the year, and no, I am not talking about Christmas, I'm talking about Leagues 5, which is once again gonna temporarily fill that empty void inside me. We have a lot of changes since the last time around, so in this video I will talk about everything you need to know on the upcoming game mode that will be released on November 27th. Let's do this. If you've been living under the rock and haven't played Leagues before, let me give you a quick rundown on how things work. Jagex have officially stated that every leagues going forward will be region locked, meaning that Karamja and Mistalin are already unlocked when you log in, and you can unlock 3 extra regions on top of that. There are currently 9 different regions available, and the difference this time around is that all of them have their own unique boss that can only be found in leagues. And all those unique bosses also have unique drops. Now keep in mind you can only pick 3 of these regions per account. Do you want to explore the newest region Varlamor that has a very beginner friendly environment but one of the hardest bosses in Leagues 5? Do you want to go Fremennik, which offers arguably the best echo items in these leagues? Maybe something like Desert that has 4 minigames, a raid and plenty of powerful weapons. The choice is yours, but once it's locked in, that's it, you can't change it anymore. Leagues 5 will be running for 2 months, going from November 27th until January 22, so you will have plenty of time to play and try out every possible strategy. The goal of Leagues is to unlock new tasks, and by doing that you gain points, and you can spend those points to unlock regions and relics. Everything in Raging Echoes Leagues is boosted. You get much faster experience, you get much more loot, and the best part about Leagues is that every player starts at the same time. A level 3 account in Lumbridge, and trust me, it is extremely fun to just spawn in, pick your first relic, and see thousands of other players around you going through the same thing. Now when you spawn in Lumbridge, you are offered 3 tier 1 relics that you have to choose from. And this all comes down to personal preference. What kind of skill you enjoy training the most? What skill you don't like doing at all? So let's briefly go over all the tier 1 relics and what they do so you have an easier time to make your choice. Let's start with Power Miner, which offers you great tools to speed up your mining and send the ores you mine straight into your bank. It also has an amazing side benefit that allows you to either smelt your ores immediately into bars for smithing experience or turn every gem you get from mining into crafting experience. The second option is the Lumberjack, which is extremely good for woodcutting. Once again, it speeds up your skills significantly and sends the items into your bank. The side benefit for this is either automatically turning your logs into fire making experience or turning them into arrow shafts to make your fletching training much faster. And the final tier 1 relic is Animal Wrangler, and this has 2 effects. One is fishing, where you speed up the process of catching your food again. It then again gets sent to your bank, and it also has a chance to cook them while never burning food. And the other is related to Hunter, where your traps never fail, you can catch chinchompas much faster, and your impling jars never break. Since every player will have access to normal chinchompas on the Isle of Souls, it could be a very good benefit for Hunter. This all comes down to which skill you prefer to train more over the others. Or maybe it's the opposite. For me, I don't like to train mining, so picking the Power Mining Relic allows me to get that skill out of the way faster. And it also allows me to get some nice metal bars that I can use later on in smithing. However, currently it seems players prefer the Animal Wrangler relic more than the others because it has that double effect of fishing along with cooking and then also side benefit of Hunter. But keep in mind, there are going to be plenty more relics that affect your journey, and it is your job to find the perfect balance between skilling, combat, glue scrolls and utility. It's good to set out your mind on what you want to achieve in these leagues. Do you want the prestigious Dragon Trophy? That means I need to consider long-term relics. Do I quickly want to get enough points to unlock all the cosmetic rewards and then stop playing? Then you have to consider powerful early game relics. Or maybe, do I want some new PvM experience that I don't have access to in main game? Then you should heavily lean into combat relics and so on and so on. However, I understand for beginners this might be very overwhelming. If you feel like you're stuck on your relics and you're not very sure what to pick, there is this amazing Leagues Discord server where people are more than happy to help out beginners on their journey. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check that out. One thing I would recommend keeping in mind is definitely trying to find a good synergy for all your relics and regions. I'll give you a good example of that. Let's say you really want to go hard with PvM and focus on combat a lot of these leagues, especially especially endgame combat like raids. In that case, you definitely want to pick something like the Run one because it offers a very solid range and melee solution. The echo bosses in Gauntlet gives you an item called Crystal Blessing, and that makes it so your crystal armor works on both BOFA and melee weapon. This effect gives you 15% more damage and 30% more accuracy on both melee and your bow. So now you have a pretty good base foundation for your next region. Maybe something like Fremennik would work out amazingly after that, because you get 2 echo items to go along with your crystal armor set. A very powerful ring and amulet that works for all 3 combat styles. So now you have amazing armor and amazing damage. And then you can round up your region choices with any of the raids. Mauritania, Gurend, Desert, all good choices. Maybe you don't want to raid and instead want to pick something like Ascarnia for God Wars, or maybe Varlamor for powerful mid-game choices. Keep in mind that all the relics and all the items you unlock are so much more powerful in leagues. So if you ever wanted to try out content but you were afraid to waste supplies or scared that you can't do it, this is the perfect time to practice. You have overpowered relics, you have overpowered gear, damage and so much more, and you can get a good feel for it. I remember in previous leagues I hadn't done Inferno yet, and it was a perfect time to learn that experience because the relics and gear I got were so extremely powerful, and it allowed me to try it out without having to worry that I'm going to fail. I got a really good feel for it. I managed to get Infernal on my first try in leagues, and a few months later I got the cape in main game as well. And that's the goal here. Go for regions that you enjoy the most. Go for relics that you think are the most fun. Developers have tried their best to make everything as even as possible, so oftentimes there is no wrong or right choice. It just depends on what you like the most. Now, let's go over the biggest thing about these leagues, which is the echo bosses, so you can decide what unique items you want the most. Every region has their own echo boss with different levels of difficulty, and all of them drop unique items. Keep in mind that all the bosses are in instanced areas, so nobody can just come in and yoink your stuff. Also, how echo bosses work are pretty simple. You have to go in and get 1 kill count of the normal version of the boss, and that gives you a guaranteed drop of a token. You can then activate that token and now start hunting down the echo versions of the boss infinitely over and over and over again. So let's start with my favorite one. Like I already briefly mentioned before, the Fremennik echo bosses are Dagonet Kings. They have a master level difficulty, so you can expect a quite heavy fight going in. If you grind these echo bosses long enough, you have a chance to get the new Amulet of the Monarch and Emperor Ring. The current consensus from player base is that these 2 items are the most powerful echo items we're going to get in these leagues. That's why also Fremennik is thought to be a support region. Usually players don't find their main goal to be Fremennik region, but these echo items definitely make it very tempting to come here. Then we have Desert, an echo Galphite Queen that drops the Drygore Blowpipe, and that item is very similar to the normal Blowpipe. The main difference is that the Drygore Blowpipe is extremely accurate, so if you do get it, expect to deal some serious DPS to anything that stands in your way. The weapon was purposely put into Desert because the region lacks some serious range power, and the Drygore Blowpipe should fix that issue now. Number 3, we have Gurend with the Nature's Reprisal. This weapon can be obtained from Espori, and this boss is once again considered to be elite tier, so it will give you a fight back, but it is considered the weakest out of all the echo bosses. To put into perspective how good the echo item from Gurend is, it's basically a super salamander that hits as hard as Osmuten's Fang, almost has the same stats as Bofa, and works kinda like Trident of the Swamp, and all of it is put into this one weapon. So if you're looking for a great mid to late game weapon to carry you through tons of content, this is a perfect option for that. In Ascarnia region, the echo boss will be Cerberus, that has a level 91 Slayer requirement, and it drops the Dog Sword. Now this is without a doubt the funniest echo weapon out there, but it's also very useful. The beauty of this weapon is that it has the special attack of all 5 God Swords. Thematically, this is my favorite item design of all the echo items in the game. Its power comes directly from the special attack itself, and if there are going to be any relics around special attack power, this weapon will shine even more. And there are a few other very powerful echo weapons, like Wilderness region has the Thunder Kopage that can be obtained from the Echo King Black Dragon, and the Kopage does incredible AoE damage around you. Varlamor has the Sunlight Spear, where you can charge up the attack, and after 7 times you can strike down your enemies with AoE special attack that hits very hard around you. But keep in mind, to get the Sunlight Spear you also have to defeat Echo Soul Heredit, which is the only Grandmaster echo boss in the leagues. It's expected to be the hardest challenge in the entire game that only the best players can compete. So if you're not up for the task, the Sunlight Spear is going to be out of your reach. If you want to see the absolute full description of every echo item out there, you can head over to Old School RuneScape wiki that has up-to-date information on everything this league has to offer. They will have the full task list, they will have all the unlockable drops split up by region, they will have a description of all the relics and overview of the entire leagues. I highly recommend you go check it out to get even more information about this. Next up, let's briefly go over the task list and then we'll also talk about combat styles. Firstly, I've seen this happen on all 4 leagues now. People want to get started with PvM right away on day 1. So what they do, they start immediately training their combat, but I personally think that's the slow way to go about this. As you unlock more relics and more regions, your combat experience multiplier also goes up. So it is recommended to first start doing easy tasks that anyone can do. Unlock your regions, unlock your relics, and then you will also get your combat experience multiplier. For example, let's take a look at the previous leagues. If you just on tier 1 relic, your combat multiplier could be something like 5x experience, but you get yourself to tier 2 relic and that multiplier is now much bigger. You get to tier 4 relic and your experience multiplier is suddenly 12x, and so on and so on. So I wouldn't recommend getting tunnel visioned on certain tasks or certain skills. I would recommend starting with the lower point tasks. See the ones you can do really fast and try to get higher unlocks before you actually start training your skills, because this saves you so much time, and the more relics you unlock, the easier everything becomes. Even just when you log in, around you in Lumbridge Castle there are going to be hundreds of points just laying around and you can complete them in seconds. So go through the task list before you log in, maybe you see some easy tasks that you can do and then you already have a starting plan ready. Other than that, a lot of streamers, content creators and generous players are going to reveal their strategy plan, so you can just copy that and use it to your advantage. Okay, now let's talk about combat styles. This is the best way for a beginner player to think about this. If you want utility and safety, I would recommend picking Magic. Ancients alone will carry you through most of the game, especially if it's combined with a very powerful combat relic. Good example from previous leagues was the Magic relic that sped up your attacks, gave you more accuracy and damage, saved your runes and much more. If you use something like Blood Barrage with this relic, you will constantly keep yourself at 99 hit points while dealing decent damage. With that in mind, you can almost take on any boss in the game and you'll be fine. You can't really go wrong with having infinite healing and damage. Secondly, I think range will be the most safe option. Now, I don't mean safety in general, I mean safe in a sense that no matter what regions you're going to pick, there are always some very good options for range. It's one of those combat styles that you just can't go wrong with, because there's always something no matter where you go. Something like Desert has the new Masori and Trigor Blowpipe. Ascarnia has Sarai Crossbow with full Armadillo. Tiran one has full Crystal with normal Blowpipe. Gurend, Varlamor, Wilderness, Mauritania all have good ranged options, so you really don't have to worry about making the wrong choice. And finally, melee has the most amount of variety out of all 3 options, and arguably that means it's also the most fun to pick. Every single region in Old School RuneScape has very good melee weapons, and guess what, they all have different purpose. Blood Moon Armor in Varlamor, Dragon Claws in Gurend, Ursine Chainmace in Wilderness, Blade of Saldor in Prifddinas, Osmuten's Fang in Desert, God Swords in Ascarnia. I mean, even the starter regions have their abyssal weapons. Mauritania has so many different melee weapons that we don't even have enough room to fit them all in here. And all of them will fill a different purpose. I didn't even mention all the cool echo weapons you can get this time around. It's almost like a buffet of choices. Take whatever you want. Some of them might not be the best, but they all have their own unique style. So this is what I think. If you're going out to try absolutely new content to learn how it's done, I would pick Magic because it provides the most amount of safety. If you're going out to leagues and you're afraid to make the wrong decision, I would recommend picking ranged because you really can't go wrong with it. And if you want to have the most amount of fun experimenting with different styles, I would recommend picking melee. But at the end of the day, I want you to remember one thing before you log in. There is this idea that you need to know what you're doing in order to be successful. But the reality is that people who know exactly what they want usually can't make an interesting story because they already figured everything out. This can be applied to leagues as well. You see all these content creators, streamers, people like me who are tryhards and try to come up with a 1000-step process to figure out the game inside out. But from my experience, that never makes for a good story. Honestly, the best story I had was last year. I let a random wheel decide my relics and regions. It wasn't the most optimal outcome, but I love thinking on the spot, going with the flow and letting the wheel decide my leaks. Now obviously people have different perspectives about this. Some people thrive in their 1000-step Google document. Some people find the brainstorming part before leaks the most exciting one. And some people just jump in without knowing anything, go full freestyle on these leaks and let the game decide for them. So try to find your own middle ground. Try to find what suits you the best, and if you're going to just have some fun but need some guidance, consider subscribing to my channel where I'm planning to release multiple Leagues 5 guides in the upcoming weeks. But I thank you for watching this video and I'll see you all tomorrow with another one. I love you all very much. Bye.